Hello, welcome to my channel. If this is your first time joining me, my name is Adrienne. I am a former teacher turned homeschool mom, and I love to share tips and tricks about my homeschooling journey. This video is going to be all about boredom. Last week I talked about the gift of making your kids wait, and this week I thought it would be great to talk about being bored. But first, I want to wish you a belated Merry Christmas. I hope you had a wonderful holiday celebrating the birth of our Savior. I cannot believe that it is already the end of December. As we wrap up 2022, I thought this video was kind of fitting, especially if you do celebrate Christmas and participate in gift giving with lots of excitement from your kids, I'm sure. Boredom is a gift, and it actually creates an environment for your kids where it allows them to be more creative and use their imagination because they don't have something to occupy them, to entertain them. They have to create if they are bored. I make it a point to schedule days at home. I'm kind of a homebody, and God bless me with 3 busybody children. So we have to kind of schedule times where if we have a super busy day, my kids are pretty much aware that the next day is most likely going to be a stay-at-home kind of day and a chill-out kind of day because mommy needs her time to recoup and rejuvenate for the next busy day that's coming. So if you're scheduling time to stay home and kind of during your day creating downtime for your kids, we only allow our kids to view screens at certain times, and it's not every day. So setting those parameters and those boundaries and giving them time to create their own stories and imaginations and whatever it is that they're creating is actually really good for them developmentally and really good for their brain activity. So if your kids are always complaining that they're bored, stay tuned. I have some tips for you at the end of the video. It's really important that you give your kids time without any kind of agenda. Just go outside. Say, go outside and play. You have to stay outside and play for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever it is, especially if it's a nice day. Just make sure that if they're out there for an extended period of time that you are applying some kind of toxin-free sunscreen and giving them plenty of access to water. So you're not locking them outside all day long without those things, or all day long, even with those things. Just a little bit of time, unsupervised if they are old enough. It's really good for them to have that time where they are creating their own activities and their own, kind of going in their own way. You can have less toys. Obviously, this is not common and probably not a popular idea or opinion, but I don't think that having a ton of toys is great for kids' imagination because they just go from one toy to the next toy to the next toy to the next toy, and they don't have to kind of dream up different things to do with the same toy or use the same toy in different ways. So if you have a lot of toys that you don't want to part with, or your kids are like mine and have like a panic attack when I say we're going to declutter, you might want to think about a toy rotation where you take some of their toys and put it in a bin and put it in a different location where they don't have access to. Maybe it's under your bed, maybe it's in the attic, maybe it's in a closet up on a high shelf where they can't reach. And then every so often you rotate the toys. So you have a set amount of toys that you put in the box, and then the toys in the box come out and you just rotate back and forth. I've seen some super ambitious moms who have toy rotations every day, and they have like a shoebox that their kids have access to, and it changes out each day. I don't have that kind of energy or ambition, so I shoot for every few weeks, kind of moving their toys around in such a way that it would encourage them to play with different toys at different times. And we don't really have a ton of space for a ton of toys, so we've actually had to pare down on toys, which was a super emotional event for my children, but it created opportunity for them to use toys in different ways than they've ever done before. So it was a blessing, but it was also a struggle, as with many things in parenting. So make sure that you are giving them a break from their electronics. If they are used to having lots of electronic time, screen time, you might have to kind of adjust that slowly, kind of like I wouldn't recommend doing cold turkey. That might be very challenging. But maybe if they're used to having 2 hours a day, maybe you cut them back to an hour and a half and then an hour, and then eventually like every other day, or some kind of system so that it's not like cold turkey. You want to kind of ease them off of it a little bit, because screen time is addicting. How many of you have started scrolling on social media or watching TikTok videos or Instagram, and then you look up and it's been 40 minutes and you thought it was 4? So kids are just the same. They want that screen time. They are addicts just like we can be. So you want to make sure that you're regulating that time. And oftentimes when we are scrolling, when we're looking at these videos, we're kind of vegging out and we're not really activating parts of our brain for thinking. And when you don't use something, you lose it. So you want to make sure that you're activating the right part of your brain and that you're not losing parts of your logical thinking, because you don't want to be in a state of like not thinking. You want to activate your brain. So taking breaks from electronics is good. Having some kind of toy rotation or less toys in general is great. I found an educational psychologist, his name's Dr. Fry, and he said that it's really good to allow children to learn how to occupy their time and become comfortable with who they are without having to always be directed of what to do and how to act. So it's really important for our kids to kind of create this internal dialogue and be comfortable with themselves and be confident in themselves that they can do something instead of mom or dad telling them to do something. So I thought that was really interesting. I had never thought of it like that way before. So super interesting take on it. So if they are always being told what to do, whether it's this is your screen time or this is what you're doing, like this very structured time all the time, they're not going to be as able to regulate themselves in a sense, and they're not going to have as much time for imaginative play. And when they're younger, imaginative play is the super best way for them to learn. It's something like they have to hear or read something like 20 times before they learn it, unless they're playing, and then it's like 7 or something crazy. So when they're very young, they will learn a lot through play, which is why it's so sad that kindergarten now has become basically like first grade and they've taken away their playtime in schools. I digress. Okay, so boredom busters that I found that I thought would be fun, depending on the age of your kids and your comfort level. Play-Doh is always a win-win in this house. It just stresses me out with the cleanup because my little ones like to fling the Play-Doh pieces everywhere. But if yours are a little bit older, Play-Doh might not be as stressful, and it keeps them occupied, and it gives them an opportunity to be creative, and they're building something, they're creating something. Whatever that looks like for you. So Play-Doh's a great one. Art's another great one. Again, stress level, depending on the age of your kids. Art could be a fun one. My girls like to draw, and there's a really cool YouTube channel called Kids Art Hub, where it's an illustrator and he walks you through it, and he actually has his kids do it with him, which is fun, and it shows them exactly how to illustrate and draw certain things. So super cool way to have art. Maybe you are very free with art and you let them paint unsupervised. More power to you. Any kind of thing that they can create, something from nothing, that would be considered art in my book. Telling them to go play outside with no specific agenda, that's a great way. There's Osmo is something that you can hook up to an iPad, and it's like learning games, so we like to do that. Sometimes she does that for quiet time. Anything that they could play with, like Hot Wheels cars or dinosaurs, magnetiles, where they are creating something, giving them a cardboard box and markers. My girls will literally spend an hour like decorating it into something and then playing with it. It's like the greatest when we have a delivery and they can play with a cardboard box. They can make pillow and blanket forts. They can play floor is lava. If you're cool with having them throw pillows and cushions on the floor, I don't care about that. If it occupies them and as long as they're being safe, more power to them. They can have a tea party with their stuffies. They can have a pretend tea party with their stuffies. They can design and race paper airplanes. They can do yoga as long as you're comfortable with that. There's so many different things that they can do when they say they're bored. We have a rule that my daughter's actually not allowed to say bored, and if she does, then I give her a chore. So she has developed quite a list of her own rather quickly to avoid having chores. She goes and reads or does some other thing in order to avoid the boredom. But it's really good to give your kids that time so that they can develop those skills of learning what to do when they're not being told what to do. And as an adult, that's something that's very helpful as you go throughout your life. Obviously, no one's sitting there telling you everything you have to do unless you're at a very structured job. And even then, there's gotta be times where you're not told what to do, and you just have to kind of figure it out as you go. Motivate yourself, set your alarm so you're not late to work. Those kinds of things are really important life skills that will come to them later. This is just preparing them in their childhood for giving them opportunities to be bored and to allow their brain to work in different ways and to decide how they're going to spend their time. So I hope that was helpful. I hope that gave you some value, and I hope as you are wrapping up this year, I can't believe 2022 is almost over. Just keep these things kind of in the back of your head as you're planning out your next year.